Hi, and welcome back to your Autism Game Plan. I'm Joya Vanderlaan, a family nurse practitioner, a functional medicine specialist, and an autism mom. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the transition from early intervention, which is up until age 3, at least here in the United States, to the school system. So typically after your child has graduated from the early intervention system, there's a transition that takes place. That transition should have been discussed from the very beginning of your early intervention experience in the document called the IFSP, which I sort of think about like an IEP for early intervention. And there's a lot of terms and acronyms here, and hopefully you're following along. If not, I did make a video, a first video on the early intervention program and what that looks like. So maybe hop back and look at that if you're not sure what the IFSP is, and gain a little more information that way. There are about 5 technical steps when it comes to thinking about your child graduating or exiting from the early intervention program. Those 5 steps are outlined really nicely on a website called EI Clearinghouse. And I think it would be more valuable to you to spend 1 minute looking over that list than having me regurgitate it. One reason for that is that I think you may want to print it out and highlight it and have a look at it. It's about a 1 minute read, really easy, but I'm going to link that below rather than just, stating word for word a list for you. Now, when your child was in early intervention, they had the IFSP, the Individualized Family Service Plan. When they transition out of early intervention, they will likely have what's called an IEP, or an Individualized Education Program. This IEP is a document that assesses what their current functioning is, what their struggles and their strengths are, what their goals are, and what the benchmarks for those goals are, with specific numbers attached and percentages of success attached to those. And it will be monitored at intervals throughout the school year, and it will be used to check and see if your child is making progress, if the goals are appropriate, if they need to be changed. And then it also is used to determine what therapies your child should be receiving and how many minutes per week or per month, and also what setting your child should be in. So that IEP is a legal document. It changes over time. It's reviewed once a year at least, but you can always email or otherwise in writing request a meeting at any time. That is your right as a parent. You may always request a meeting with the team. One of the things to consider is, what type of classroom do you think your child is best suited for? You may not know, as I didn't know, that there are lots of different options, and ask the school district about what all these options are. Even if they may not be appropriate for your child right now, it's important for you to know the offerings of your school district so that maybe in the next year, 2, 3, 5, 10, if your child is ready for a different type of classroom setting, you know it's available. And even it can be helpful to think about in terms of goals. My child is in a self-contained classroom right now, but our goal really is to get her into this program. So just to have an idea of where your child is right now and where they may be going, there are really both advantages and disadvantages to any kind of classroom for any kind of child. But it's important to think for your child, where are they going to thrive right now? You may want them in a typical classroom, right? We all want our kids to be included in the typical world, but that may not be best for them right now. So think about, where is your child right now, and even ask your therapists for their opinion. What type of classroom do they envision your child being successful in right now? Another thing you'll have to think about as you transition your child out of early intervention is therapy, and what types of therapy you want to offer to your child. Of course, in the school system, your child may be eligible for certain therapies depending on their evaluations. But therapy in the school setting can be very different from therapy in a clinic setting or in a home setting, for example. You may want to do both, or you may not. You want to know, what kind of therapy is the school setting offering your child? And could your child benefit from additional outside therapy? Or is that going to be too stressful for you, for your schedule? Is it going to be too much for your child, not leaving them enough time to play, for instance? that's a balance that you'll want to kind of think about, but you want to make sure to give your child the appropriate amount of therapy, but not too much, which is this really hard decision to make. And it may change from month to month, year to year, of course. And your job is going to be to sort of think about that on a periodic basis. Maybe it's every month. Think, is this therapy schedule working for us? Are these therapies providing benefits? Is it helping my child? Do we need to rethink the structure of our therapy or the scheduling of our therapy? That's kind of always got to be in the back of our minds as we transition out of early intervention, where things were very planned for us, and now more out of early intervention, where it really does fall more on the parents to sort of be that hub for therapy. One term you're likely to hear quite often as you are planning the transition and even going forward in your child's schooling is the term least restrictive environment. The idea behind that is that they want your child, and you probably want your child, to be in the general education setting. Now, if your child can function in that setting and learn in that setting and thrive in that setting, that would be the least restrictive environment. However, if your child isn't quite ready for that, then the least restrictive environment needs to be an environment where they can get more help, but they're as close to that general education setting as they can be while still functioning. So, and that can change from year to year. And so that's why it's important to always reevaluate, right? We reevaluate the IEP every single year at least. And so things may change, but just know that the least restrictive environment is a term you are going to hear often. And that's what it means. We want our kids in the general education setting, but they may not be ready for that yet. So what's the closest we can get them to that general education setting? Maybe we need supports in the general education setting, and that is acceptable in the way they are going to thrive. Or maybe for now, they need to be in a self-contained classroom to kind of do a little bit of work before they're ready to join that general education classroom. I wanted to share with you a few things that you're not going to find online when you look at the transition from early intervention to the school system. The first thing, and probably the biggest surprise for me, was the fact that, yes, my little 3-year-old who has never been in anything beyond a 5-point harness car seat was going to be riding a bus by herself, just with the bus driver, no aid, no nothing. I was so worried, but it turned out to be just fine. What the bus company does is they provide a vest type of thing, which zips at the back, has hooks at the shoulders and the waist, and then those hook into straps on the bus. And so they are relatively secure, and it's very difficult for them to unhook themselves. And that keeps them safe in the event of a quick stop or, heaven forbid, an accident. So rest assured, the bus is probably going to be just fine for your child, like it was for mine. One thing also that I did not know until a little bit later was that you can actually add dietary restrictions into your child's IEP. If you have them on, for instance, a gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, corn-free, whatever kind of diet, or if there are allergies to work with, those should be placed in the IEP. Remember that IEP is a legal document, and so the school has to follow what's in there. That way you don't have to worry about if your child is, accidentally going to get gluten because the teacher or the aide was not aware that you are strictly gluten-free, for example. So just understand that you can put those food restrictions into your child's IEP. When it comes to the transition, there's a lot to think about. I would suggest thinking of some of the things that are important to you as you transition, and don't be afraid to ask for those when it comes to meeting with the school team or emailing the school team. You know what your child needs. Those teachers, those therapists, they also know what your child needs, but maybe in some different ways. You see your child at home. You've known them for longer. They're your child. Don't be afraid to stick up for your child and advocate for what they need, whether that's in an email or in person. You know your child. This process of transitioning from early intervention to the regular school system can be somewhat stressful and unknown and unpredictable. We've never done this before in many cases. I hope that I've provided some value here for you, some more information to empower you to know that you are doing a good job with your child. So that's part of what I want to tell you every time. I know I needed to hear this a lot. Remember to be gentle with yourself. You are doing a great job.